technology and the call for Miami to become the next tech hub of the Eastern Seaboard. I like to look at it as the capital of the gateway of Central and South America, the Americas, if you will. I had a great guest on. His name is John DuBois. I consider him an expert in the tech industry, a person who I met a couple of years ago when he was the vice mayor of Palmetto Bay. Since then, we've communicated a number of times. A person I find really, really interesting. His perspective is probably spot on when it comes to these issues. But let me give you a little bit about John. He's currently the CEO and founder of a tech company called iCast, an iCloud-based video surveillance company that was based in Broward from 2009 to 2020, and now moved its headquarters to Dade County. So that's a big component of this call to bring companies to the local area, tech companies. John DuBois has he's a graduate of American University in Washington, D.C., with an undergraduate degree in economics and business administration, but very, very interesting, and a master's in technology. But very, very interesting about John DuBois is the fact that, he spent a lot of years in programming in the industry, really building out his expertise. I work for a defense contractor. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to John DuBois. John, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Man, thank you so much for being here. So let's talk about the fact that Miami, there's a call to make it a tech industry hub. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think clearly a lot of the people in Dade County, whether it's the politicians or the business leaders over the last 10, 15 years, have tried to figure out an angle on how to improve Dade County in terms of being a hub for technology companies. I think, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Manny Medina was one of the first with his with his group that he founded to try to bring the companies together here, through his organization. What was interesting to me is, my feeling when I had to make the decision back in 2009 whether Broward or Dade County was the place to go. I actually started out early on at the beginning with engineers from Broward and Palm Beach County that were commuting and basically working out of my basement in Dade County to do the engineering work. And what I found over the first few years, it was virtually impossible to find well-experienced telecommunications software engineers down here in Dade County. So we got to the point where there were too many, and people don't like to commute if they don't have to for an hour to get to their jobs every day. So we actually set up headquarters in Sunrise, which was about as far north as I wanted to go living in Dade County, and as far south as these engineers from Palm Beach County and Broward County wanted to go to work for the company. So there was a balance. And one of the best examples recently, I think that underscores what the prime issues are in Dade County, is the decision that Amazon made. South Florida was in the, I guess, final 3 or 4 choices for Amazon's second national headquarters. And when they ruled out this area, the explanation for why Dade County wasn't legitimate, there were 2 reasons, right? One was inability to attract talent and hire talent from the immediate area. Their studies and their experts that analyzed this for months came to the conclusion there was not an adequate pool of skilled engineering resources down here and skilled personnel in general for what they needed as a high-tech company. The second issue, right, which is a major issue, is they viewed this area as having major transportation problems. And for the same reason my engineers didn't want to come down to Dade County, people don't like to spend a lot of their work week stuck in traffic commuting. And that was the second major issue that they indicated. And I think either one alone was probably enough to kill the deal, but both together were definitely a deal killer for the Amazon.
So I wanted to ask you as a former vice mayor, as an elected official, as a business owner, have we like overcome that hurdle, those obstacles of creating a better infrastructure that's more attractive to these companies, or do we still have the issues from your perspective to deal with on workforce development, training, and transportation?
I think what's happened is we have, as a county, we have kind of come up with micro solutions to the problem. So some very specific areas, initiatives have been put in place. In fact, our current county mayor Cava was very supportive of technology incubation companies and incentives. What Mr. Medina did was great to bring tech to the area from an awareness and have companies visit during his event. We've had things like our career source, which is actually a state and federal program that we can discuss a little further, that provides some incentives not specifically focused on tech. And there are a host of things that were done here. The county made substantial improvements, in my opinion, to the Beacon Council years ago, all of which were to attack specific weaknesses in our ability to attract technology companies. However, the bigger picture, those two major issues that I talked about earlier that Amazon faced, need a much more comprehensive strategic investment from the county in order to overcome the problem and really be effective in attracting and retaining technology companies and taking it to the nth degree, potentially by becoming a tech hub leader in the United States. It will require substantial, not just financial investment, but intellectual investment in this area. And in my mind, I have an outline of how those things could be done and what needs to be done. But my feeling is it's going to take a lot of work, and we have a ways to go.
And since you have a plan, which knowing you probably have a very, very detailed plan. So have you been talking to our leaders about perhaps incorporating or adopting some of what you're proposing here?
Yeah, actually, not extensively. In fact, about a month ago, I think right around the Christmas holiday, I texted Mayor Cava suggesting that at some point down the road, perhaps later this year, that I can get involved with the county to help with the tech initiatives and put a plan together to move the ball forward in this area. And she was very positive in her response and was supportive of that concept. So I have planned on getting together with her and her staff and whoever else is necessary to help make these things happen.
And I'm extending an invite to her this week for her to come out to the next show. She and I have discussed via text that her interest in coming out and elaborating on this issue, as well as Mayor Francis Suarez from the city of Miami, who initiated this all-out blitz to create Miami into a tech hub. But John, let me ask you a question. So you're a local guy, local company. Certainly brought his company from Broward to Miami. What's your thought on this idea or this call to attracting or courting people from other states versus those that are here local, investing in local companies to grow homegrown businesses to do better and provide, I guess, a bigger footprint in the tech industry?
Yeah, I think we've had one leader in Florida and one example elsewhere of these efforts, and those are kind of good benchmarks to look at. Rick Scott, when he was first elected to office, he was advertising in his campaign the fact that he was actually going to get on an airplane and go meet with leaders outside the state in the tech sector and basically provide encouragement and incentives for them to move their companies to Florida. It wasn't much of a success in and of itself. There's my opinion, and I guess the second example to look at is, an effective version of that was what was done initially in New York to bring Amazon's second headquarters there, and then the politicians managed to get in the way after it was done and succumb to public pressure about providing too many incentives on the financial side. And there's a public outcry about using tax dollars that would break the bank, and the math to get those paid back with the revenues from the tech sector didn't add up in some people's opinion. So there has to be a balance. Getting back to the fundamentals, my opinion, what I would do if it was my plan was invest in the two areas that are needed, right? Make sure both investments occur in parallel. You need to do the kind of things, all you really have to do is look at Silicon Valley, California, what makes them so successful. So part of the answer is kind of a prerequisite, if you will, seems to be, and it applies to other parts of this country that you can look at, that you need a really good scholastic institution like a Stanford University is a great anchor for that area of students that that it's kind of the center of the universe for the technology of Silicon Valley and some of the other universities that have strong programs there. So the interaction with multiple universities in a region that are very focused on engineering really creates the ecosystem needed as the base for these centers. So I would look at it as an investment that's needed in the colleges and the college's curriculum, with significant money perhaps to recruit big name professors, to get the students there to these universities, big name adjunct professors. For example, here having somebody like Jeff Bezos as an adjunct professor that could stop in once in a while for lectures. That part of the equation I think has to be addressed. I think you also need to take a look at the programs for the demand side, not just the supply side, which is the companies that are going to hire the tech people. How do you encourage a company to place its headquarters here in Dade County instead of Broward or out of state or New York, where they're providing financial incentives? And I think we already have a good fundamental incentive, which is there's no state income taxes. That's a good thing for cost of living from one point of view. But I would say we need to create something above and beyond, like a turbocharged version of direct career source type model credits for companies. So career source here in South Florida and Dade County, what they do is they take federal dollars and state dollars that are allocated to the program to train new people. Well, take that model and modify it a little bit and say, for tech jobs, we're going to take that training money that they augment, so that if I, as an employer, paying $40 an hour for a new software engineer, I would maybe get $15 an hour as part of the career source or existing state or federal educational support to train employees, and I would augment it with a county specific additional funding for specific technology positions, software engineers, so on and so forth. And that way we'd have a turbocharged version of that program that's above and beyond other counties and states in the United States. So that would be a good attraction to get these, to get the companies to actually say, you know what, we need to locate there because our costs are going to be lower, because it's really hard to get engineers. There's a good foundation from the universities in the area, so we know we'll have well-educated people, and we know that people that grow up and live and go to school here in Dade County and South Florida love to stay here because of the weather and some of the other beneficial attributes of the area, the great international community we have, and all the other things. So it's a formula that definitely would work. It's just a question of commitment. And lastly, I think the county needs to get serious about investing in a state-of-the-art public transportation system, like New York City as an example, right? Washington, D.C., I went to school there, and they have the best underground metro rail system in the country. And since I left in year 2000, and since I went to school there in the 1980s, small cities would emerge right out of each of the metro stops in Washington. Why? Because it's an ideal transportation system to create kind of a live, work, play environment where people don't need cars. So all these things need to be addressed. We need to get, in my opinion, we need to get serious about our transportation infrastructure, because people don't want to live in an area and work in an area where you have to spend an hour and a half commuting from reasonably priced housing to your job location.
I wanted to point something out, because you're speaking about larger industry giants, but I think that the small companies are experiencing the same thing, because we recently had a small company owner that happens to be one of the fastest growing companies, according to Inc. magazine, in the country in his field. And he was saying that the biggest problem he's having is finding trained people, or finding programs that will train his people that then he can hire, because it's niche specific, job specific. But today, this morning, I don't know if you saw it, John, in the on the internet, Yahoo Finance put out a report that highlights the fact that 4 out of 10 people in the country cannot afford an unexpected expense that pops up, say, of $1,000. $1,000 will literally break them. But we know that the United Way Alice report pre-COVID talks about takes a look about the condition of the households in the state of Florida. For Miami-Dade, it was roughly 59% of the households in the county that were either 1 or 2 paychecks away from the economic disaster. So in my closing comments, what I will tell you, what I will ask from you is, would you help me work through this series of tech here at the Miami Community Newspapers? Because I think getting the information out to people is really important. The second thing is communicating to elected leaders plans that are going to work, that are really geared towards helping not just the business, but also the workforce that is so suffering here in Miami-Dade County. What do you say to that?
No, absolutely. I think we need to build a team, right, that will put the pressure and follow through with the elected officials in Dade County. I think one of the things that I think is great is that we have 50% of our county commission is new, and in 2 years we'll change over the remaining set of commissioners, it turns out, because we really need some fresh blood in there to really get behind a unified, countywide, not a district specific initiative by the politicians to invest in the right things. Our company has had very good success, as an example, with Florida Atlantic University. They have a tremendous engineering program out there. We've hired some great engineers there. If we had that down here in Miami, I'd probably have a half a dozen more engineers straight out of school working for my company than we currently have on staff.
Well, I think we've run out of time, and I love to continue the conversation. So I want to have you back on the show. I invite you to be back on the show, but also help us work through this issue, this series that's so important. Man, we can literally transform the Dade County economy, make sure people are not hurting, who are just so stricken by the pandemic. But I think the pandemic's been an unmasking of a deeper problem that has not looked at investing in our local community. So, John, I thank you so much, and I look forward to communicating over the next couple of days. Maybe we could talk a little more offline about how to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I agree completely. Great segment. Thank you very much.
Take care, sir.